All right, well, we're joined by Robert-Falcon Ouellette. This is Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here. Now, we've had a few disputes in the past, or disagreements, I would say. One thing you never did, though, was you never ran away, you never name-called, and you never acted immaturely about things. And my experience about 10 minutes ago was going up to Pat Martin, who promised me an interview, and he ran away, name-calling along the way and shoving people aside. And, you know, using huge amounts of profanity against people walking by. And I figured that was pretty unprofessional. So I do thank you for at least, even when we have disagreements, standing there and standing your ground and explaining, you know?
Well, I can't answer for Martin, but like, I know tough questions are going to come, and I can't answer all of them, or I might have a difficulty because obviously in democracy you have to have a good debate, and so I really respect you, and any individual who has different ideas from myself, and so because you can't agree with everyone all the time, so and I respect that.
It's just getting a little old when politicians don't keep their promises. But I did want to start with a rather difficult question, then we'll get on to a more simple question. Someone already took my question about C51 earlier, so we'll go to the next one here. Now, the Central Bank of Canada, it's been pushing inflation rates really high. It's been devaluing the dollar, and the Bank of Canada, by its declaration, is supposed to be a public central bank. But at this moment, it is private, much like the Federal Reserve in the United States. Now, what can be done about that? And is the Bank of Canada above the law?
No, obviously the Bank of Canada, I don't believe, is above the law. So governments do have, I think, an influence, but it is a arm's length relationship. So it's more based on the idea of consultation, and the governor of the Bank of Canada sets interest rates.
Yeah, and they've been setting interest rates for many years, but we've seen a huge devaluation of our dollar, and inflation has gone completely rampant, and it's actually starting to mimic things that we've seen before historically in Germany in 1923, and in several other countries around the world, Poland, etc. So what are your views on the central bank's control over our dollar, printing money out of thin air and then owing it back in?
Yes, I've heard about these, like that idea many times. The problem is we exist in an economic system, and how do we actually go about changing the entire economic system? So to be honest, I'm not sure on my own level of expertise what I could actually do concerning the Bank of Canada, because the things I'm trying to talk about are poverty related here in Winnipeg Centre, and perhaps I am missing the larger picture with the Bank of Canada. But at the end of the day, for me, like, the interest rates are actually quite low. I know the Canadian dollar has declined, but there's hopefully going to be an uptick in the manufacturing sector. And with some of the investments we announced today, hopefully we'll see, more green manufacturing develop, because we're only 19th in the industrialized world for green jobs in our economy, and hopefully we'll develop more of those and more manufacturing where we can start exporting some of the products we develop here that will be good for the environment. But, with interest rates low, there is an opportunity to get more people into the housing market. And one of the issues I have in Winnipeg Centre is there's actually not a lot of home ownership. And so one of the ideas I've been thinking is, how do we actually get a case or in French, what is that thing in English? I just had the word.
I don't know much.
Cooperative, a bank cooperative. What do you call that? Credit union.
Credit union.
To have a credit union, perhaps more in the West End, to develop something along those lines, and how we can actually get more people from West End able to get mortgages so they can actually start building up, some capital and have a stake in society themselves.
Okay, well, now my next question is something that you've actually spoken to me about during the mayoral elections. And now that you're running at a federal level, I can honestly ask you what you're going to do about this. Marijuana laws, where do you stand on that?
Well, we stand, very good question, very easy question actually. We actually stand for legalization and regulation of marijuana. Okay. We don't believe that the current regime that we have, where you put people in prison and you allow criminal gangs to use marijuana and sell marijuana, is conducive to producing a safe society. Sure. And so what we're in favor of is regulating like you would alcohol, ensuring that you keep it out of the hands of youth, that you have to be 18 years old in order to even access it, people pay taxes on it, that it's illegal to grow it, so it's done in a legal setting with companies and other organizations that will sell it, that if you're needing it for medical marijuana, marijuana purposes, that you can obtain it from a secure source, and you will be able also to have it reimbursed on your health plans, and to make it legal and regulated. Now, other parties, unfortunately, haven't gone that far. One is in simply just the Democratic Party. They're just in favor of decriminalizing, but you still get a ticket. So it means, they'll still have the criminal gangs. We're going to still have all these elements, that go along with it. The prostitution. And what I really want to do is cut those out, so that we ensure that that young people, especially in neighborhoods like this, are given options that are going to produce better long-term outcomes for themselves, and not fall into simply doing the gangs because they're nice people and they're giving you a little, they're buying you shoes once in a while, but really ensuring that our young people have those long-term options of success.
Well, and in line with that question, we have this situation with Mr. Glenn Price here in Winnipeg, who owned the your medical cannabis head shop, and I know Justin Trudeau has already spoken out in favor of him. What are your views on what has happened to him, how he was arrested, and for giving people their medication?
I think it's unfortunate. I don't think it should have happened. If we have a new government in Ottawa, it won't happen ever again.
Okay. Well, here's one question that I'm positive you've never been asked this election, and that is, for several years, for over a decade actually, Stephen Harper, Obama, and the President of Mexico, as well as Stephen Harper, Bush, and the President of Mexico, have all claimed that they want to merge the economies of Canada, the United States, and Mexico into what they call a North American Union. Now, a lot of people say it's conspiracy theory, but they openly talk about it, they have meetings about it, and they've already made certain legislation around it. So what are your views on our sovereignty and the creation of something like a North American Union when we see what's happened to the European Union overseas?
Yeah, so for me, really, I'm about Canadian sovereignty. I was in the Canadian Armed Forces. I was, willing to, make the ultimate sacrifice if need be for my country, and I haven't heard any talk about that so far within the Liberal Party. I know we do have the North American Free Trade Agreement, but I'm really in favor of ensuring that our governments have full control over our economy and that we're able to advance the interests of Canadians. And so that includes, the ability to advocate on our behalf and not being subject to unelected officials.
Well,
and so obviously, at this moment, since it's hypothetical, I'm in favor of ensuring that Canada, the Canadian government remains strong and sovereign on our lands, as well as I'll just attach on that. First Nations and
of course.
provinces, and it's a shared responsibility.
So you mentioned NAFTA. What are your thoughts on the TPP?
I think we should be a little bit more open about what's going on. I think we should have a more or greater debate within our society, and I hope it's not signed so we can actually have that debate in Parliament and we can actually see what's being negotiated on our behalf. Okay.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure talking to you again.
Can I just add one thing?
Sure.
So we were talking about the Bank of Canada at the beginning of the conversation. And just to jump in there a little bit, as you may know, for a long time, Canada actually funded government spending through interest-free economic injections from the Bank of Canada. And then in 1974, or was it 1973? 1973, Pierre Trudeau actually changed that system and set it up so that a bunch of international banks now create our money as debt, which we, the taxpayers, have to pay off. Would you? I know you're running for MP here and not, Prime Minister or something like that. But if you had the power, would you be interested in going back to interest-free money created through the Bank of Canada?
I have no idea. I'm not an economist.
Well, basically, it just means
Thanks, guys. They've been waiting.
Okay.
Yep. All right.
I'll just finish up if you want.
Sure.
I wish I knew more about the subject matter. I understand that the Bank of England was established in a lot of the monetary systems based on the Bank of England from the 16th and 15th centuries. But other than that, I'm not really, I'm not a specialist in this area. I deal generally with education and how you motivate individuals and other social issues. And so I'd love to give you, greater insight in my thoughts, but I think you're going to have to find, another member of Parliament, and I could suggest some names, but the ones I know
Okay.
And I'd love for you to be able to talk to them and get more information. I'd love to also learn if you have more information that I don't know about to understand that issue.
Well, I'll send you some good information.
Yeah, it's basically a better way to fund things that doesn't involve impoverishing working people and taking the money from us to pay for everything when the government could be creating its own money and not putting us into debt.
Sounds like social credit.